the hum and the horizon. The rhythmic metallic hum of the USS Abraham Lincoln used to be my heartbeat. But 3 months into that Western Pacific deployment, that hum started sounding like a funeral march. My name is Marcus. I'm a petty officer, second class, and I always took pride in my edges. My uniform was crisp, my boots mirrored my soul, and my loyalty to my wife, Tasha, was the bedrock of my entire existence. I spent my nights in the humid, oil-slicked belly of the ship, sweating over electrical systems fueled by one thought: the welcome home hug I could already feel in my bones. The breakdown didn't happen all at once. It started with the silence. First, it was a missed FaceTime. Then the "I love you" texts started coming back without the warmth, and finally they stopped altogether. The night my world ended, I was in the mess deck. I opened a stray email from a friend back home, just a single attachment. It was a video, grainy and poorly lit, taken at a local lounge. There was Tasha. She had her head thrown back in that loud, beautiful laughter I thought belonged only to me. She was draped over a man I recognized from her office, a guy she told me not to worry about. The hurt wasn't a sharp pain, it was a drowning. In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by 5,000 sailors, I felt the oxygen leave the room. I retreated to my rack and pulled the thin blue curtain shut. In the darkness of that tiny bunk, the tears didn't just fall. They burned. I felt a profound sense of spatial vertigo. I was thousands of miles away, trapped, unable to do anything but exist in the agony of being replaced while I served my country. I couldn't wait until I got home. The fire in my chest was too hot. I had to let it out or it was going to consume me. I burned a week's worth of pay on a satellite call that crackled with the static of the deep ocean. When she finally answered, her voice was light, breezy, like she wasn't currently burying our marriage in a shallow grave. "I saw the video, Tasha," I said. My voice was a ghost of itself, trembling with a mix of fury and pure, unadulterated grief. The lounge, the office guy, I saw it all. There was a silence on the other end so heavy I could feel it through the line. Then the lightness vanished, replaced by a cold, sharp edge. She didn't deny it. She didn't cry. "You're never here, Marcus," she snapped. "You're halfway across the world playing sailor while I'm here living a life alone. He makes me feel alive. He's actually here to hold me while you're just a voice on a grainy screen. I'm tired of waiting for a man who's married to the Navy more than he's married to me." Her words were salt in an open wound. She didn't apologize for breaking her vows. She blamed me for keeping mine. "I'm out here for us," I choked out. "No," she hit back. "You're out there for you. I'm moving on, Marcus. Don't call this number again." The line went dead. I stood there in the narrow passageway of the ship, the dial tone screaming in my ear, realizing that the woman I had been willing to die for had just left me for dead in the middle of the sea. The rest of that deployment was a blur of mechanical movements. I processed the divorce papers via ship's mail. The ink blurred under the salt air. Tasha didn't even fight it. She said she was in love. When the ship finally docked, there was no one on the pier holding a sign for me. I walked off the brow with a single sea bag and a heart that had been cauterized. I spent a year in a silent apartment, throwing myself into my work, convinced that love was a scam I'd never buy into again. Healing started in the last place I expected, a community garden. I just wanted some peace and dirt under my fingernails. That's where I met Elena. She was a middle school teacher with a laugh that sounded like music and eyes that saw right through my tough sailor exterior. Elena didn't rush me. She listened to my stories of the sea and the crushing silence of the engine room. For the first time, I realized that loyalty wasn't something you traded. It was something you grew. With Elena, there were no missed calls or vague excuses. There was only the steady, quiet peace of being truly seen. 2 years after I stood on that pier alone, I was sitting in a small bistro with Elena celebrating my promotion to first class. My phone buzzed, a message from a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to in years. "Did you hear about Tasha?" I hesitated, then read on. The love of her life, the man she traded my soul for, had been living a double life long before I ever left. He was a predator who left a trail of wreckage. Tasha had fallen ill and eventually the diagnosis came back. She had contracted HIV from him and it had progressed into AIDS. The man who had stolen her had vanished the moment things got real, leaving her to face a terrifying medical reality completely alone. I put the phone down and looked across the table. Elena was smiling at me, reaching across the cloth to squeeze my hand. Her touch was warm, real, and honest. I realized that while Tasha was trapped in the consequences of her choices, I was finally sailing in calm waters. Then the phone call came. It was Tasha's sister. Tasha was in hospice. "She's asking for you, Marcus," her sister whispered. "She says she can't leave until she looks you in the eye one last time." I looked at Elena. She took my hands and said, "You do what your heart needs to do to be free, Marcus. I'll be right here when you get back." The smell of the hospice ward hit me like a physical blow. When I walked into her room, I stopped dead. The woman in the bed wasn't the Tasha I remembered. She was a shadow. Her skin was sallow and she looked 30 years older than the day she'd signed our divorce papers. "Marcus," she wheezed, her voice a dry rattle. I threw away a king for a ghost. I'm so sorry, please. Tell me you don't hate me." I stood there for a long time. I thought about the nights I spent crying in my rack on the Lincoln. "I don't hate you, Tasha," I said. "But the man who loved you died on that deployment. I'm someone else now." She started to sob, a weak, wet sound, realizing that while I forgave her, the bridge back was ashes. She had traded a lifetime of security for a few months of excitement with a man who had literally poisoned her. I walked out of that hospital and didn't look back. When I pulled into my driveway, Elena was on the porch. She ran to me, wrapping her arms around my waist. My life with Elena was just beginning. Here's the truth I learned. Pain is a season, but character is a lifetime. I learned that you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. To the brothers out there wearing the uniform, watch the fruit, not the flowers. Tasha wanted the lifestyle the Navy provided, but she didn't have the soul required to honor the sacrifice. I'm Marcus Reed. I survived the betrayal, I survived the deep, and I finally found my shore. To anyone out there in the dark right now, just keep rowing. The morning is coming and it's brighter than you can ever imagine. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of triumph and truth.